Good morning, YouTube. Leslie here from the 14 Acres. Today is September 20th. We're about 20 miles south of Dallas. We are zone 8A, and I'm going to take you along for a garden tour and some prep for what's hopefully our last big heat wave before our fall temperatures start to set in. We are in the middle of a big garden expansion. I had a 3-foot cedar fence all the way around the garden initially when I first started gardening out here, and that was to keep the chickens out. And then a couple years later, I had a little flock of some super flighty chickens that taught all the others that the 3-foot fence was nothing to fly over. So after that, we added some wire fencing to the top of the cedar fence. So this is the old fence here, went all the way around, and then this wire, which I didn't hate it. It's green. I used it for lots of different vining plants that I would grow along here. But what we're doing now is taking down all the fencing and expanding the garden in every direction. Paul is putting up these really nice 16-foot long, 5-foot tall cattle panels. And this is really to keep the birds out and to keep the dogs out. So this area down here is going to be rows of cut flowers in the spring. So all this is coming down. All that is coming down. We'll go all the way around with those 16-foot long, 5-foot tall cattle panels. Have these Vitex trees. I like to grow some annuals, some perennials, but basically everything for pollinators down here. We've never really done anything with this space just because we knew it was transitional and not. We are putting down this black landscape fabric everywhere to choke out this Bermuda grass. Bermuda is horrible. It, sends out crazy runners and will just take over everything. So this is all just a work in progress. Eventually, we're going to have a really pretty, nice arbor here. Paul's going to be using some of this black walnut. So I love to grow in everything. I grow in grow bags. These are some carrots. I grow in galvanized troughs, which I love. This is my eggplant bed here. This is one of the beds that I'm going to be covering today. I have sugar snap peas here for fall, and I just sowed this whole bed full of lettuce seeds. Let's see, 3 days ago. And I'm already having germination here. Have about 8 or 10 different types of lettuce in this bed. So I've made sure it's super well watered today, and then I'm going to be covering this whole bed with insect netting just as a little bit of shade, a shade cloth for these high temps we're having today. I bought these one year at Hobby Lobby in their spring stuff, and they were really cheap. And I've used them for so many things I think this is my maybe 3rd year to have them. I use them as just like little small trellises for vining plants, stuff in pots. I use them decoratively just in the garden. I love the way they look. But today I'm going to be using them in this lettuce bed as something to connect the shade cloth to. My pepper bed over here is still going really strong. It has been a little neglected. It is time to pick all of these and make some pickled pepper rings. This bed has been Zinnias and Cosmos, and I have a couple of volunteer tomatoes growing in there that, you know, the irony with volunteers, we baby all the other things and they struggle, but this volunteer is just thriving where it wants to. This was another cut flower area. I have zinnias, straw flowers, gomphrena, some snapdragons, all sorts of just different cut flowers in here. This is Christmas lima beans, pole beans. They are really just starting to take off. They're vining everywhere, and see, they're attaching to that fence. This was Chinese red noodle beans, and they were neglected when things got crazy several weeks ago. But what I did out here a few weeks ago was just harvest some of the beans. So I just dropped some of those beans here, and then I came back about 3 weeks later and put another row here. These have already made it to the top of this arch. They are flowering. And so today, here's the first little noodle beans here. This bed has watermelon, some volunteer zinnias, and a couple of tomatoes that a couple of months ago, when my tomatoes were really struggling, I left a couple. I cut them all the way back, and these are really thriving now. I think one of those might be a pink Berkeley tie-dye from Wild Boar Farms, but I have 2 tomatoes in there that are doing pretty well. This bed has carrots sown in it and sugar snap peas, but what you're seeing right now are volunteer marigolds that dropped here or just reseeded. That is a volunteer tomato, and I just saw another volunteer tomato right here. So things, you know, oh, and here's another one. See that little volunteer tomato? This is the Brassica Bed that is getting covered today as well. These are the fall starts that I bought for $1 at my local nursery. It's a tricky time of year here. I am having some issues with cabbage worms, which I've just been hunting for and smushing. There's one right there. Because these do not need to be pollinated, I could totally leave them under the insect netting, and I may do that for a little while. Just need to make sure there are no worms on them before you cover them. This is a super fun bed here. This was an organic sweet potato that started sprouting on my counter a few months ago, and I'd never grown sweet potatoes before, so I did a little research. Rather than just planting the whole potato like you do with other seed potatoes, with sweet potatoes you actually cut these slips off of the potato and then root them in water. And then when they root, you plant them. And then anywhere where they send out roots into the ground, they will form, the roots are basically tubers, which are the sweet potatoes. So, and these are flowering. Let's see if I can get over there and show you. There are wasps that nest in this fake hawk right here. I'll leave them alone because they actually, did you know that wasps eat like cabbage worms and caterpillars? So they leave me alone, I'll leave them alone. Paul is not a wasp fan, so I have to make sure he steers really clear of this. But look how pretty the flowers are. I just saw a big fat bumblebee in one. Loofah, y'all. Crazy loofah. This is one seedling right there. And you can see it's totally covered, this cattle panel. Y'all, when I say the pollinators love loofah flowers, like, you've just honestly never seen anything like it. This whole thing is buzzing right now. So look, we have a moth here, big native bumblebee there, honeybees there, more native bumblebees. Look at that honeybee. She is going to town. And you can see all the loofahs hanging. If you're looking for something to really grow and cover something and give some shade, loofah's where it's at. It does have requires a long growing period. It works fine for us because we have such a long growing season. See those bees. I would grow it if for nothing else, just for the pollinators. They absolutely go crazy. Here's my asparagus bed. One major thing that is in just the middle of process right now, I had some galvanized tubs here growing several different things, and they were really blocking. We're on the back side of this loofah vine now. But the tubs I had growing here really blocked my access to this blackberry patch, and it has seen happier days. So, see, it has vines going everywhere. Totally overtaken with Bermuda. I did get a lot of that pulled up this weekend, and I have a lot more to do. I did discover there was some poison oak growing in there. We have a couple of trees, seedlings growing in there. So a lot of work to be done here. And I'm just thinking as I'm out here in the garden, and we're in the middle of this huge expansion and phase of growth, and I always say that I have these just life lessons that come to me in the garden. And so my wisdom for today is this. So I'm out here looking, nothing's really where it's supposed to be or gonna be. I'm watching that wasp right beside me. But seasons of growth are oftentimes messy. Things that are in process are often messy. So I think we need to give ourselves grace for that. You know, it's like when you're doing laundry. Things look worse before they look better. You know, you may have clean clothes thrown all over your bed, but you're working on them, you're folding them, you know. But if someone were to walk in the middle of that process, it looks like, you know, a tornado has come through your room. So, and that's sort of the stage and the season that we're in the garden. We are expanding, we are growing, we are improving, but that process is messy. So that's what I'll leave with you today. To just give yourself grace when you're in seasons of change and growth, and be prepared for it to be a little messy, knowing that you are taking steps forward and that you are getting there. So y'all have a great day. I would be thrilled if you would comment, if you would like, if you would subscribe. I'm just gonna keep sharing all this stuff, y'all, and especially these garden tours. I personally love to be able to look back, and I've been doing these for years on Instagram, and so it's so crazy to look back and see where this garden started. When we bought this property in 2012, this was just an overgrown pasture. None of this was here. So to see what, you know, you can create with just some hard work, some elbow grease, some sweat equity, you know, it's amazing what you can achieve when you really put in the hard work. So okay, I'm thankful for y'all, and if there's anything I can do to help y'all, you can always email me at the14acres@gmail.com, or drop me a DM on Instagram, or leave me a comment here. So y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all soon.